Special guest in conversation this week, how I have got this far into a career, and I haven't interviewed him, God alone knows. I've followed his career from the early days through appearing. I used to watch him all the time on Live from Her Majesty's. I could always tell when it was a Tom Jones night on there because that was when everybody went mad. I've read loads of books about him. I followed the career. I followed him on the television. I mean, he is so phenomenally successful. When I said to some people downstairs, young people, mind you, and I said, who have you got coming in? I said, we've got Sir Tom Jones coming in. And they went, can we come and watch? You see, Sir Tom Jones, you are the legend. Over the Top and Back is the autobiography. Loads of books about you.
Yes.
This is your book.
This is my book.
This is your book. Did you think it was time?
Yes, because all these other books come out, you see, and they say autobiography on them sometimes. But it's not. I didn't write it. You know, a lot of the other ones.
Yeah.
And people think that they're misleading. So I thought it's about time that I did one that I believe in, and there's stories in there that people don't know. All the way from the beginning right up until now, the highs, the lows, and we have an album to accompany it.
Yes.
You know, it's they go hand in hand.
You
really.
don't miss a trick, do you?
Well, it's a fact.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, some of the tracks that we've used, because when I recorded this album, my producer Ethan Johns, he said this album sounds like an autobiography. I said, well, it's funny you should say that because we have one coming out, so they really go well together.
It's a nice. I must say, congratulations on the rugby. I didn't want to say congratulations on the rugby.
Well, yes, it was a surprise because I thought going into the second half that England looked like they were going to win. But then, of course, it all turned around and the Dragon came through. Much
jubilation, I have to tell you. Where I live, Lynn, one of my, she's Welsh, and she said she screamed from her balcony.
Yes.
Wales, she was so excited. Everybody was so excited because I don't think anybody really thought they were going to do it. Even you.
No, not at that point. You know, I mean, at the beginning, I think they were both two great teams, and I don't think there was any favourite there. And as it was going, England looked like they were going to win. I mean, they were all the way into the second half, and I thought, oh my God, this is going to be
sweaty palms.
You know, this is it. Yes, but all of a sudden, bump. You know, and that was wonderful.
I have to be honest. I have a hankering for Welsh Wales. I've never been there. I support Max Boyce.
You've never been there?
I've never been.
Oh, you should.
I know.
Go.
I mean, I find it physically.
It's so close. It's so close.
Yes.
I mean, Cardiff.
I can drive.
Yeah, I mean, straight down the M4.
Yes.
Or you can get the train from Paddington to Cardiff. It's easy. It's 2 hours. You're there.
It's interesting. I've supported a group there called Only Boys Allowed.
Oh, aye.
Who
I said. Very well said. Yes. Oh, aye. It's lovely.
Boys from the valleys, and they formed a vocal group, and there's 134 of them in this particular one.
Yes.
Because there's so much unemployment in the valleys, and because there's so much deprivation, and people needed a boost.
Yes.
And singing is something that the bandmaster, the choir master, has said to them is cool.
Well, it's always been like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they created male voice choirs. It started from the coal mining days, you know, and they've always had that. There's always been a big male voice choirs, especially. I mean, there are female voice choirs as well.
Yes, but Treorchy is very famous.
Yeah, Treorchy male voice choir. So a lot of those coal miners, you know, that was something that they enjoyed doing after doing a shift. They would come in and sing. So singing has always been very big in Wales.
Yeah, they always. I remember getting off the train at Paddington once, and a male voice choir had just got off the train as well, and they sang, and because of the acoustics,
yes,
blew everybody away. It was just something about it. So you were singing from a very early age.
Yep.
Very early age.
Very early. As far back as I can remember. My mother says that I could sing before I could walk. I used to crawl around the kitchen singing.
What did you sing? Do you remember?
Songs that were on the radio, apparently. I was picking them up very, very early. And it was amazing. I mean, I've never known life without singing. It's always been there.
Yes, it has. I remember even through the lean periods, and your career did take a dip at one point.
Yes. Well, as far as recording was concerned, you know, that's what happened. But thank God the people have always been there. You see, when I was playing casinos, for instance, in America, a lot of all the way through the 70s, I was playing arenas. You know, but then the hit records got a little slim, and. So I would be playing casinos a lot, you know, but there were always people there. So I never went through a dip where you know, because some people can go on stage and think, oh my God, you know, there's nobody here or very few people here. So maybe the writing's on the wall, but that never happened to me. But my recording career did suffer because I was more interested, it seems to me now, that I was more interested in doing live stage shows. I thought that would be, that's my mainstay. But of course, you have to have records. You have to have records out there so people know that you're alive. Especially because I was in the States and I had a lot of country records. I recorded some country songs that didn't come out in Europe. So Europeans thought that I'd stop recording because they didn't get those records. So thank God that I did The Boy From Nowhere and then Kiss, and then of course we went on and on from there.
I want to talk about the change actually, where I think your son Mark was very instrumental in going, listen, Dad, let's move in this direction. Let's go with the art of noise. Let's go down here. And all of a sudden, Tom Jones discovers a whole new audience. But prior to that, was I right in assuming that Joe Meek was the man who... Didn't he record 4 songs with you?
At the beginning, 5.
Yes, 5 songs.
We did 5 sides with him in 1963. And nothing really happened with it, And afterwards, though, when I had It's Not Unusual, they put out a song called Little Lonely One, especially in the States, that Joe Meek had recorded. And it was a hell of a record. It was... I don't know why he couldn't get those early ones across, but he did try. I mean, I must say that he did try. It's just that my style of singing, I suppose, at that time was not in fashion because, the Beatles had just broken and the Stones, so there was sort of a lot of boy bands, a lot of young-looking...
you fitted into the looking department.
Well, I was the macho, I was the macho Welshman with the curly hair, and I don't think it was fitting there. But thank God I broke through in the end. But
thank God for tight trousers, I always say.
Well, this is it.
In fact, it worked for you.
Yes, it worked for me.
For you. But so prior to that, when you were with Tommy Scott and the Senators,
yes.
Was that where Joe Meek picked you up from?
Yeah. We were sending tapes around to different people, and Joe Meek heard my voice and said, I want to hear you. So we came from Pontypridd to London and recorded for Joe Meek. And he loved the way that I sang and my band played. And he made some really good records. Those early records that I did with Joe Meek were really, really good. Yes. And I always enjoyed his sound because he was an independent producer. And he was an engineer. The more I learned about Joe Meek, he was the engineer on Bad Penny Blues, for Humphrey Littleton.
Yes.
He made that record. He made it sound so great. And Sonny Terry and Brownie McGhee, he did an album of theirs when he was. Before he was an independent producer, when he was the engineer, he engineered a lot of.
In his bathroom, somebody said.
Yeah, well, you sometimes you'd have to stand in the bathroom, because there wasn't enough room. It was just a flat, that he had one floor up.
That was it.
Yeah, the front room was a recording studio. You would record in the front room, and his where he was, all his stuff was in the control room was in the back room. So sometimes the singer would have to get in the toilet in order to sing because there was no room there.
That gave it a very distinctive sound. I thought that was the sound.
It could have been. Maybe that's what it was.
It was acoustics.
Yeah, but I mean the big record that he had was Telstar.
Yes.
And I don't know where that was recorded, but that sounded like eerie. He used to get a hell of a sound, Joe Meek.
But that was the thing in those days. I mean, all you wanted to do was sing. So you're a young man. You're 17, 18?
No, I was in my early 20s.
Early 20s by this time. Mm-hmm. So all you want to do is sing. Was this a career at that moment, or was it just something to do?
No, I always wanted to be a professional singer. When I was a kid, I thought if I could become a professional singer and concentrate just on that and don't have to do any other job of work in order to survive, which I had to do. I had many jobs in the daytime, but I was always singing at night, and I wanted to make that my career. How far it would take me, I didn't know. But as long as I was a professional, that's what I wanted to do.
And by that time, you were a father, of course. So I got support. You were a father at what, 16?
Yeah. Almost 17.
You did start.
Yeah, my son Mark was born in 1957. He was born in April, and I was 17 in June.
Wow.
So, not quite 17.
You only ever had one child,
yeah.
Didn't you? It was a case of I was waiting for a whole family, so that you'd be like the Von Trapps.
That's right. I think my wife had a problem after that,
Right.
So she, we just didn't have any. But Mark is enough, believe me.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe so.
Yes.
But I think he's been actually really good for your career. It's an unusual thing to have father and son
Yeah.
get on so well. Over the years, I've seen
Yes.
you arriving at airports and leaving, and
That's
you seem
right.
to have a bond.
Yes. Well, he was my personal assistant for a long time.
Yeah.
But he was always very interested in what I was doing. And Gordon Mills was my manager then.
Yes.
But Mark was always there. He was very instrumental in what I was doing. You know, why don't you do that? Why are you doing this? So he was very concerned.
Yeah.
So when Gordon died, I said to Mark, you know, why don't you do it? Because you know more about me than anybody.
Yeah.
And since Mark and Donna, his wife, have taken over, you know, that's when the resurgence came.
Yes.
Because they put new blood into it. You know, they
They
injected
gave you new blood as well. It was
exactly
you
picking the
revelled
right
in it.
things.
Yes.
You know, because Mark was really getting fed up with seeing me play these supper clubs and things. You know, in the States, and but he's proving what you know. He's proving it.
He's worth it.
Definitely. So
Definitely.
that when I did, because we listened to The Boy From Nowhere, and that was the beginning of it, you know, and Gordon Mills was dying, and Mark sort of jumped straight in there, and we did The Boy From Nowhere, and then Kiss right after that, which was Mark's idea. He said, the Art of Noise are interested in you doing Kiss with them, and I think you should do it. I said, okay, let's give it a shot. And then it just went on from there. You know, it just got bigger and better, and it's Mark and Donna picking the right venues and making sure that I don't do anything stupid. You know,
Did they change your clothes as well?
Well, yeah, you know, made me aware, because I think I was like I dressed a certain way in the 70s, and it was like Saturday Night Fever, and I couldn't let it go for a long time until I took a long look at myself and thought, well, maybe they are right, which they are, to sort of not to be silly, not to be, you know, because you can become a bit of a joke.
Yes.
You know, like with Elvis Presley, God bless him, but people towards the end of Elvis's life, you know, they were not taking him seriously because, and that bothered him.
Yes. Well, listen, I want to talk about Elvis in a moment. There's an album, there's the autobiography. It's a weighty tome, but then when you ask Sir Tom Jones, and he does have the knighthood, you know, he's crammed a lot in, and he shows no sign of slowing down. He's got part of a mini tour. He's got some audiences with. I mean, really, this man, there is no end of energy. So when we asked him what he had for breakfast, and he said a bit of fruit, I thought he's now on the health kick. More from Sir Tom after this. Special guest in conversation, his autobiography, Over the Top and Back. And believe you me, he's been over the top. He's been back. He's been out. He's been in. There's a new album which goes hand in hand with it as well, which is called Long Lost Suitcase. This man has lived out of a suitcase. So Tom Jones has lived out. You mentioned Elvis. There is no way that we could ever do any interview with you without mentioning Elvis. I met Priscilla, and that was exciting enough. To meet Priscilla, to think she was married to Elvis Presley. You had jam sessions with Elvis.
Yes. In Vegas especially, because we both worked there at the same time.
So did you finish at the shows and then meet up?
And then get together, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was amazing. He was at the Hilton and I was at Caesar's Palace, and after the shows, you know, we would get together. Mostly at his suite, because he'd like to get back to the Hilton.
Yes.
And then he'd get his singers up there, you know, and a piano player, and we would just sing all night. And it was tremendous. I mean, we couldn't record any of it because the Colonel Parker,
yes,
you know, he didn't want any of that. He didn't want anything to slip away from him. He wanted to control the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's just a shame that there's nothing recorded that Elvis and I sang. But we had a great time doing it. I mean, so the memories are with me, you know. And Priscilla talks about it, because I'm still in touch with Priscilla. I see her.
She looks fabulous.
Yeah, in Los Angeles, and we talk about it. You know, the first time we met was '68, and then I was in Hawaii with him in '69. You know, and I got on great with Elvis Presley. We were on the same wavelength. You know, he was really serious about his music.
Yes, and very serious.
Yes,
yeah.
So towards the end of his life, you know, he was starting to become. He got overweight, and you know, people were not looking at him in the same way. And I think he lost interest because he fell into that thing that I started to fall into.
Oh, you know, did you?
A little later, you know, doing live shows and not really keeping in touch with what's happening.
Yes.
You know, what's going on. You must keep your finger on the pulse, you know. And Elvis could have done it with the right people. He could have done that.
Yes, I agree with you. I think towards the end, when he'd put on weight, he had a lot of people who were just really after a piece of the action.
Sure,
of Elvis.
they were all yes men. You know, that was the problem.
And that was the great side. But you're right, he was passionate about his music. Totally. I've got a series of albums which I think came out on RCA, and it's the alternative recordings of some of his hits, which were either slower or faster, and he was talking to the sound engineer saying, "Oh, I think we do this a bit different." Yeah. And I used to think that's Elvis Presley. It doesn't get any bigger. But he
knew what
Presley.
He wanted.
Yes,
I mean that Heartbreak Hotel, which was his first big hit that we knew worldwide. He had a lot of takes on that thing, you know, and they said, "Well, what else can we do with it?" He said, "It's just not right yet." And I think it was like 17 or 18 takes, which in those days were most things were done in one take, you know. But he wasn't satisfied until it was right. And he was very serious about it.
Well, it's amazing. I think it's an indication of how big a star he was and still is, that people are still passionate about Elvis. You talk about him, but of course you were there, and that's what makes us so jealous, because you could call him a friend. You could pick up the phone and chat to Elvis Presley. And you could do that with lots of people.
Well, I just did a song called Elvis Presley Blues, which is on
it's on the album.
On the album. Yes. And I played it to Priscilla in Los Angeles, you know, and she said, well, that is a great tribute, you know, because it's a tribute to Elvis's life. Yeah. You know, that's what it is. And she was thrilled with it. And Jerry Schilling was there, who was one of the Memphis Mafia, you know, who I'm friendly with. And I played it to them, and they both loved it. So, you know, I've got the rubber stamp from...
Good luck. Well, but you get the rubber stamp for everything. Why did you never do movies? Why did you not want to go down the movie route?
Well, it was a mixture of things that... The things that were being offered to me were just like Elvis Presley, you know. I mean, he fell into that. He was waiting, and he said, "Okay, I'll do another musical, all right." But I want to get to it, and he thought he would get to more of a serious thing because he could act.
Yes.
And I felt the same way. I wanted to get something that was serious, but it never came my way. But you see, when you're making a lot of money, when you're manager at the time. You know, you're out on the road and you're making hit records and you're doing live shows. Movies they didn't anyway. They didn't make that much kind of money. You didn't get big advances for movies like you would, you know, with records and shows. So I think maybe that had things to do with it, because I've had producers come to me that were there then, and they said the reason that we sent you scripts, but Gordon always blanked them, so you never got to...
Because Gordon was looking after you, Engelbert, and
Gilbert O'Sullivan.
Gilbert O'Sullivan as well.
Yeah,
I remember seeing a photograph of you with the Rolls Royces.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, you're not done badly.
Well, but I think he'd like to keep us out on the road there, you know, to keep the money rolling in. Yes. And to do a movie is chancy, you see.
Yeah.
So I don't think... so I think that was the reason. But I would have liked to have had a go at it. But then again, my first love, and always will be, is singing. Yeah. So, you know, the movie part, if it had happened, then fine, you know, it could still happen again. I did a thing called King of the Teds for Sky Arts, you know, and I liked that. You know, I got into that. But
you see,
but anyway.
The nice thing about you is that, you know, considering everything you've been through in your life, the hard work, and don't let anybody ever tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that what Sir Tom Jones does is easy. It's hard work out there to get out there and entertain people and keep them coming back week after month after year after year. It's a very special gift you have to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, you've got to love it. You see, you've got to love what you do. Yeah. You can't do it. I mean, I've talked to other singers sometimes, and they go, "Oh, I've got an album out now, and I've got to go and promote it." Yeah. Well, that's the best part for me. Yes. You know, let's get an album done so I can sing it live on stage. Yeah. You know, so I can go and promote it. You know, and get into radio stations and talk about it and present it for the people out there. Because if you don't get the product out to the people, you know, then you're not getting anywhere with it.
But you've never lost that. You've always been a people person.
Exactly.
You haven't lost that. I've seen other artists who've lost it along the way, surround themselves with a huge entourage, and you think you can't quite get... I mean, Sinatra had a huge entourage that went with him, as you know. Yeah. But you've always kept very grounded.
Well, I like people. I really do. I mean, I'll talk to people, you know.
And how?
And I do, though. You know, I mean, I would be talking to somebody. Sometimes I'll do an interview and they go, you do interviews very easily. And I say, yeah, well, if I wasn't talking to you, I'd be talking to somebody. I'd be in a pub somewhere talking to somebody. I like people.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of what I've done in my life.
Yes.
And I love talking about records. If somebody wants to know about a record that I've recorded, I'll give them the information.
Yeah.
And that could be at a bar in a pub.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you were the last man to have a Bond theme hit with Thunderball.
Yes.
Sam Smith has just got to #1 with his.
Yes, I
latest
haven't heard it yet.
You must hear it. It will strike you. It's a bit Michael Jackson Earth Song.
Mm-hmm.
I only say that because that appears to be the riff that runs through it. Yours, because your voice is, you're a rich baritone. But you seem to be able to cover everything: gospel, country, R&B, soul.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you can't sing or that doesn't sit with your voice?
Not really. I mean, if opera, of course, is another thing.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to be an opera singer, you have to train for
Get
it.
a big barrel chest.
You have to, but then again, I went for some lessons when I was young in Wales, and this soprano, this lady that was giving me some advice on singing, she said, you have projection already. You sing correctly, but I can help you breathe. I can give you some tips on how to use your voice. But she said, you have a voice, you should be an opera singer. And she said, you're a baritone at the moment, but I could stretch you to a tenor, you know, because apparently Caruso was a baritone.
Yes.
That was, you know, he stretched his voice up to a tenor. So
you could do that.
It can be done. And Bryn Terville, or Bryn Terville, you know, he said that you know, you could have been an opera singer with the right training, and I agree with it. But my love, you see, is the bluesy based. You know, I love the blues. I love things to do with gospel, blues, country, you know, soulful kinds of things.
Yeah.
And with opera, you have to do it a certain way, and it doesn't give you that much opportunity to go bending notes. You know, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't. You have to sing it a certain way.
Because what you like doing is coming out on stage with a band behind you.
Yes.
That's what you
and
do.
Play with it, you know, and see what happens. You know, get the basis of a song, but then you can different nights. You know, you can put things into it, but you can't do that with opera. It has to be a certain way.
Listen, we've only just touched the surface of Sir Tom's career. If you want to know everything, and I mean everything, he talks about it in the autobiography, which is called Over the Top and Back, and the album Long Lost Suitcase accompanies it. It's been a real thrill. Thank you.
Thank you.